Hi, welcome back to C++ in Detail, Exceptions. And in this video, we begin next section of this course, and we're going to be talking about how to create your own exception types. And in the next video, we'll briefly talk about standard exceptions. So there are a couple of ways to create your own exception types, and I want to demonstrate them on these examples. And first I have this myException1, this class which inherits from stdException, and it inherits publicly and virtually. And then I have this string to keep an error message that describes the problem that occurred. And then I also need a constructor taking that error message and initializing my member. And then I also need to override from stdException a method which is called what, and it returns an error message describing the problem. And I'm inheriting from stdException because basically the only purpose of stdException is to serve as a base class for all other exceptions. It's like an abstract class, although it's not declared as such, and we can throw an exception of type stdException. And it's also convenient to inherit from stdException because it is polymorphic type, and we can, with catch clause for stdException, we can catch any exception provided that it inherits from stdException either directly or through intermediate classes of exceptions. So if, for example, here I throw myException1 with some description of problem, I can catch it here and print the problem using this virtual what method. So if I compile or run, I see that description of problem. So it is convenient and common to inherit from stdException because it's convenient to catch such exceptions. And also it's common to, when creating your own exception types, it's common to inherit from either std runtime error or std logic error, dependent on the type of problem that you have, on the type of exception, type of error. And more about the difference between those two exceptions in the next video. For now, you just need to know that it's common to use them as base classes. And they both, this std runtime error and logic error, also inherit from stdException, so we can catch those exceptions with catch clause for stdException as well. And there are two ways to inherit from them, and the first one is we can provide our own constructors. We define our own constructors that take either std string or char pointer. These are error messages that are describing problem, and we use them to initialize our base. So that's one way to do it, defining your own constructors. And also we can do it relying on constructors inheritance. So like here we are bringing down basically the constructors from namespace of std logic error and using those constructors. This way is convenient because it saves you some space and time, and if you don't need to provide some more implementation to override something to make your exceptions more sophisticated, I prefer this way because you don't need to implement your own constructors. So this way we can also throw such exception provide some description of problem and catch that exception. So that's how we can create our own exception types. Of course, your exception type may not inherit from either of these, or may not inherit at all from other classes, but it's very common and recommended to inherit at least from std exception and to override what method, because we can then catch. We may not, for example, we may not know all the exceptions that may be thrown, but we may know just that they inherit all from std exception, and we can provide such catch clause, and then we can be sure that we will be able to catch those exceptions. So at least inherit from std exception, and also you can inherit from std runtime error or logic error, depending on type of problems that may occur. You can do it either by defining your own constructors or by using constructor inheritance like here. So that's all for this video. See you next time.